KoitCast.
Today's guest is a professional magician from the UK, famous for appearing on the Masters of Illusion TV series. Please give a big Koit welcome to Andi Gladwin. Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. My favourite type of welcome is always a Koit welcome. So thank you for
Much appreciated, my friend. Hey, obviously I've just given you a quick intro there. What do you want to say about yourself? So what's your history? You can give as much or as little as you want.
I am friend of Koit. That's the only history we need to know. Long time friend of Koit. But yeah, I'm a professional magician, and I have honestly, I think the luckiest job in the world. I get to travel all around the world performing magic at private parties, on the occasional TV show. But I also teach magic as well. So I give talks at magic conferences about the performances that I've given in the past and the tricks that I've created. And I also co-own with my best friend, a guy called Joshua J., who is an incredible magician from America. We own the world's largest magic store, which is called Vanishing Ink Magic. And we have stores in Disneyland, in California, and we have one in San Francisco. But we also have warehouses in the US and the UK. So we basically sell, create, produce magic for magicians, and I also get to perform that magic and teach that magic all around the world. And that is my job in 30 seconds.
Mate, that literally is magic. That is awesome. Do you remember when we first met?
We met on... Is this website still around? Beta?
Yes, because I had a conversation with Joel Veach last week.
Really?
If you remember him, Crab Bloke.
Yep.
So yeah, go for it.
So I used to have a day job. My first job when I left school was a very relaxed company. In fact, it was so relaxed, they offered me the job while I was still at school. And I was working as a programmer in half-term, school holidays, that kind of stuff. I left on my study leave, and instead of studying, I got a job at this company programming. Although there wasn't really all that much to do. For example, I programmed games for myself. Like, it was just a very
on work time.
Yeah, and it was very chill.
Good on you.
And our mutual friend Stuart used to post funny pictures that I guess would be like memes now on Beta. How do you say it? Beta, B3TA? What do you?
I always say Beta myself, but I don't know. It's weird.
And the whole goal of this website was to get your image to the front page. It's a bit like Reddit is now, I guess, just with a lot less controversy right now.
Yes.
But you were a member on that. I was a member on that because I was skiving off work. You were incredibly talented. Stuart was incredibly talented. I was just posting dumb pictures every now and again. And then we had a beta meetup. I think this is the only online meetup I have ever been to in my whole life. But I went with Stuart. And that's when we met. We hung out. And then we had a few little private gatherings after that, just a few of us, and it was really fun.
That's right. Do you remember what year that was? Because I genuinely don't, because I'm crap with memory.
So I think you were there when I met my wife in a club.
Oh.
So we could backtrack to that, which would be 20 years ago now. It was it like Chain? No, what was it called? There was that awful club in Gloucester.
KC's? Would it have been KC's?
I think it was KC's. Yeah. And yeah, that was one of our several nights out. So it's at least 20 years ago.
That's amazing that you met your wife then. I can't genuinely remember that, but that is amazing.
Yeah,
fair play. So let's talk about your journey through life. Obviously, you've done your bit of your job history there. But what has led you to become a professional magician?
You know, I didn't ever want to be a professional magician. Like I just said, I was a programmer, and I loved being a programmer. It's, for some reason, there's just part of my brain that just really gets off on writing code. And I shortly after we met, I left that company to pursue a job where I could actually get stuff done. In all honesty, I was always the kind of person who wanted to achieve stuff and actually leave work feeling like I had done something useful for somebody. So I left to work for another company, and that company just allowed me to rise through the ranks of there. And I ended up leaving with the co-founder of that company, and we started. I worked with him in another company in London for a few years. And I had no intentions of being a professional magician throughout that. But I had this weird realization that I don't think many magicians have had in the past. And I was looking at all of my friends who are magicians, and I was just going, these guys are great. These are great magicians. I will never be as good as them because I am spending all day, every day programming. I am spending all day, every day in meetings. And it was like, it kind of dawned on me. I'm never going to be the magician that I should be, that I want to be, unless I quit work right now and do magic full time. So it's pretty much what happened. I phased it out over a couple of months. I talked to my boss about going part-time so I could do shows in the evenings, but then, maybe work 3 days a week so that I could do shows on the weekends as well. Yeah. And he was a friend of mine, and he just said, you have to go all in. Like, you can't half-ass something like that. So he was right, and I became a professional magician. That was 13 years ago now, and I haven't looked back.
And so there's something interesting there, isn't there? Which is the bravery of quitting a job to really go out on a limb to do something you love doing, which is what everyone in life really should do. How did you overcome that fear?
So a lot of people have said I was very brave to do it. And actually, I don't think it was brave. And I also don't think it was stupid either. I think I had a plan. I'm a planner. I planned, I knew what I wanted to do. And it was as simple as this. I knew that if I could work for 6 months running my magic job, so doing shows, and my full-time job, if I could do that, it's going to be a tiring 6 months, but it is going to tell me, can I match my salary on just from doing magic? So for 6 months, I doubled my salary. For the last 3 or 4 months of that, I was doubling my salary, which felt great, but I would have killed myself if I'd have kept it up. So basically, I just proved the concepts, and then I could quit my job. And actually, it ended up being not even 6 months. I cut it a little bit shorter, but it just meant that I knew that there was money in magic. And it's kind of crass to talk about money because magic is an art, and it's weird to even have those kind of conversations, but the artist needs to get paid to be able to do it full time. So
well, that's it. You still have to live life. You're not just literally magic. You have to be able to put food in your mouth, don't you? So
exactly.
Finances still come into it. Now, on the back of that, was there some measure of relief, or was it just feel like, whoa, I'm on the right path now?
No, I think whenever you start a new job, I saw this graph once years ago, and the graph was, on the first day of work, you're feeling on top of the world. You're like going, I'm this guy. I'm the guy for this job. Second day, you're like, yes, this is great. Third day, bomb, straight down. I know nothing. I'm not the person for this job, imposter syndrome. And then you gradually rebuild back up to the top over the course of a year or two.
Yeah.
And I think that happens, at least with me, it happened for magic. Like, I've been practicing and working on magic since I was a kid, but actually the kind of magic that I might do just practicing and showing a few friends is very different to the kind of magic you have to do when you're performing for a paying audience. So I went through that stage. I kind of went in going, I'm this guy, I can do magic, I'm going to be great at these gigs, and then having a sudden learning curve. And luckily, I had friends that were also doing magic as a job who could kind of go, why are you doing that? Like, we don't do that. Yeah. You need to be doing this, and kind of teaching me along the way. So by having those connections, it was really helpful because they could help me improve my art, but they could also help me get bookings as well, which was really useful. So they were passing a lot of gigs to me. They were supporting me, just like I then did once I was established. I would then support other friends and help kind of bring people up as well. So it's a great little community like that.
Good. That sounds perfect. Now, if you've not answered this before on this call, and I don't think you have, who were your inspirations for getting into magic? Because obviously you said you got into it when you were a kid, and you were doing magic when we met.
Yep.
Who inspired you?
Probably non-stop as well when we met.
A lot of card tricks.
Card tricks, they're always here at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, my inspirations are kind of like, there's two sides to my inspirations of magic. One is the obvious ones that you probably already assumed. You could probably answer them for me. Like back then it was Paul Daniels, it was David Copperfield. And the cool thing is, over the years, I became kind of friends with these people, with my inspirations. And magic is one of the rarest forms of art that you can do that, because we're such a small community. Like to grow up as a kid watching Paul Daniels on TV every night, And then as a 25, 30-year-old, get to go around his house was kind of cool. You don't get to do that if you're a budding actor or whatever. Or David Copperfield, the same thing. It's been really cool. But there's another side of it, which is in our industry, there are famous magicians who are only famous to other magicians because they're just absolute experts. For example, there's this guy called Juan Tamariz, who is in Spain, and I think he's probably one of the greatest magicians alive, maybe one of the greatest magicians to ever live. And again, same situation. I grew up studying his books. I have all of his books over there, right on that shelf there that you can't quite see. And then again, I got to go and stay at his house for a week in Spain and study with him. So there's two sides of it. There's the famous magicians that the world knows, and then there's the famous magicians that only my little world knows. And I take inspiration from both of them.
Cool. But I bet you still fangirled on both, didn't you?
Oh, yes, very much so.
What was it like round Daniel's house?
You know what? So Debbie thought that I was there to fix the washing machine, which was cool. That was fun.
Do you know how to fix the washing machine?
No. So that was strange. That was fun. But then actually I did a convention in Italy. I was giving a talk and a show at this conference in St. Vincent, Italy, which is in these mountains in Italy, in this amazing hotel. And Paul Daniels was also doing a show at this conference. So I got to spend a week with him and Debbie, and it was really fun. And then we went to America under a similar situation. And, here's what's cool about Paul Daniels that was a real shock. I was in America with Paul and Debbie having breakfast in like a Denny's or a Wendy's or something. And the waitress came over like quietly to me once I think Paul had gone to the bathroom or something. And she said, "Who is that man? I know he's famous." And I said, are you from the UK? Maybe you've seen him on YouTube. And she said, "No, you can just feel that he's famous." And that's the interesting thing about Paul. Whenever you were with Paul or whenever you saw Paul, he was the star in the room. He had that kind of swagger. He would have a joke with everybody. He lit up a room, and you could just feel that he was famous. So
confidence,
that's really, I've never seen that anywhere else before, actually, that you could tell they were famous even if you didn't know why they were famous.
Well, that means he's uber confident in his own skin and his own life. So fair play to the man.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your company, Vanishing Ink. I know you briefly mentioned it earlier, but what is it?
So we mostly produce magic for other magicians. We publish books. And this started because my best friend, I've been best friends with this magician called Josh J since we were kids. We filmed a TV show together when we were 16 years old in Vegas, a show called Young Magicians Showcase. And this was at the time there was a famous magician in Las Vegas called Lance Burton, and he collected young magicians, and his whole idea was to give them a showcase on a TV show. Luckily, I haven't seen that TV show for years because I was awful on it. I was wearing a bright red suit. But there was another guy on that show who was also wearing a bright red suit, except for he was an exceptional magician. And he was the same age as me, maybe a year older. And we just became friends, and we kept in contact throughout all of these years. And we were emailing and sharing tricks and creating tricks. And then he came to stay with me when I was working in London. He spent maybe a week or so with me. And we were talking about how when we create a new trick, because even though I was working full time, I was still kind of dabbling in creating magic tricks. Right. We have to then sell it to another magic company because we didn't have our own company at the time, who would then have a go at marketing it. They would, maybe give it some packaging in a flimsy grip seal bag or whatever. Like, it just wasn't the quality that we had always perceived that we wanted for our own products.
Sure.
And we thought, well, the only way of doing that is to start our own production company. And I saw an interview a couple of years ago with Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And Charlie Munger said something so smart. He said, the best business partnerships have shared values and complementary skill sets. And that's me and Josh entirely. We have exactly the same values of what we like in a magic trick, how we think magic tricks should be sold and published and taught. And we also have complementary skill sets. I was a programmer, I was a designer. He was this phenomenal magician who was really well connected. So it was the perfect partnership. It was just supposed to be like an outlet for our own magic. We would write books, we would create tricks. But within months, other magicians were coming to us saying, I want to jump on board this train, and I want to also publish my magic through you. So here we are now, 13 years later. We, like I say, have physical stores. We took over the store that Walt Disney himself started in Disneyland, and now we are the operators of Walt's original magic shop, where we get to sell our magic. We get to train magicians to do magic the way we think it should be done. And it's a big responsibility because there are tens of thousands of people coming through this store every day, and we get to be often their first introduction to magic. And that just all started from just a couple of best friends on a TV show when we were kids.
Wearing red suits.
Very red suits.
That is amazing. And I imagine, not because you're not a big-headed guy, but, you know, like, to be uber proud of that achievement. You've gone from just a chap doing basic card tricks in Gloucester. Now look at you. That's amazing, is it not?
You know, I tell our team all the time, this is a recent thing of mine, that we need to get better at celebrating our wins, because we do all of these projects and we're always moving. Like right now, we're working on, and this sounds crazy, 85 projects we have on our project management dashboard right now. So we're jumping from one project to the next and to the next to the next. And I keep saying, we have to just stop. Let's just celebrate like these wins. We've done such a great job as a team. We need to just spend a moment and celebrate it. So last year, for example, we took the whole team. The team is in, I think, 4 continents. So it's the first time everybody had met. We took everybody to Vegas, and we just had a week, all expenses paid trip for the guys. We were the ones paying it.
Not for you.
But we took them to see Penn and Teller, and they gave us a shout out in their show, and they hung out afterwards with the team. We went to David Copperfield's show and his secret museum that he has, where he gave us a tour around, and we went for dinner, and we saw other shows. And so we're really trying to work hard on exactly that, celebrating the wins.
Yeah, and I just want to say, from my own perspective, it's nice to see you know, absolutely owning it. So well played to you, good sir.
Oh, you're a good guy. Thank you.
Now, your book, can you go into a bit of that?
Yeah, of course. So I have always said that I wanted to write a book, a magic book, sharing my tricks that I've created over the years. Because like I said earlier, I've been creating tricks since I was a kid. And I found when I was a web designer, my website was the worst website because I was always busy working on everybody else's websites. And that is the same with magic books. I'd published at that point 100 magic books through Vanishing Ink. And a big part of my job at Vanishing Ink is I still head up the publishing arm of the company. So I lay out the books, I edit the books, I do all of the imagery. We have designers that help me out, but for the most part, I'm doing all of those books. And my book always just kept getting pushed to the back by myself because I was always focused on working on everybody else's books. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a month off. I'm going to just write this book. So me and the family, we went to Las Vegas. We rented a house for a couple of months, and I just wrote the book. That was my only goal there, other than chilling out and enjoying Vegas. So I did it, and I released it during the pandemic, which was an interesting time because the way you sell a magic book, this is, I realize, a very strange thing, but the way you sell magic books to magicians is you have to kind of demonstrate some of the tricks, and you have to tell them about the tricks in the book. So we film what we call a trailer, just like a movie trailer. And those are typically the magician just standing in front of a camera, just kind of this shot right now, and saying, hi, my name is Andi Gladwin, and I have a book, and here's a few tricks from the book, and I hope you enjoy the book. And I just thought, you know, I want to up the production values. I want to show people how it could be done. So during the pandemic, I knew what I wanted the trailer to look like, but I knew that the only way to do it would be to be with our video team in America. And it was the pandemic. We weren't allowed to fly. We couldn't travel, couldn't get into America. So I had to go to Mexico for 2 weeks with a few of the UK team members. We quarantined in Mexico for 15 nights so that we could then get into America. We did it all very safely, and we were all masked up, and we quarantined the whole time. And then once I was in America, we filmed this trailer, which people can look it up. If they Google "The Boy Who Cried Magic," you can see this trailer, and it's basically the most over-the-top produced magic video trailer ever done for a book. But it seemed to really help, and this book sold out we've never had this before, but it's sold out in, I think, 72 hours. It crashed the website when it launched, and I think it's on its third printing now, and I'm just so proud of it, and I'm so happy that it's resonated with magicians. But the thing is, it is just for magicians, right? You have to be pretty good at magic to be able to understand the wording I use. But I just wrote a book for everybody else. So soon that's going to come out, called The Ultimate Guide to Magic. It's me and Josh, who I mentioned. We've written a book to share our best easy tricks that anybody can do. So look out for that too.
Okay, that's cool. Now here's a question regarding the book for magicians. Mm-hmm. It's not like this is the wrong term, but like paywalled for it. So it's not like you have to be a member of the Magic Circle to be able to purchase the book, is it?
No, not at all. So essentially anybody can purchase the book, and the Magic Circle have rules. And as a member of the Magic Circle, I'm supposed to abide by these rules, even though truthfully, I don't fully agree with their rules and how they've structured their rules. I still have to abide by it because I opted to be a member of the club. But they have rules that one of them is that you can sell secrets to a magic trick, but you can't give them away, for example.
Oh, okay.
So anybody could technically buy my book. And non-magicians have bought my book. I've met people at shows who said, "Oh, I knew you were going to be here, so I wanted to buy your book." But it doesn't make all that much sense to them. It's very inside baseball. So
it's not going to be one of those scenarios, though, is it, where your book gives away secrets to certain things, therefore they're going to come online and then give away?
I mean, there is a case of that
happen.
But often they are already magicians who do that. So there are YouTube channels where I'm completely against it, as you can imagine, but they might take one of my tricks or another magician's tricks, and they'll record a video saying, this is how it's done. But I also have that for TV shows I performed on. I did Penn and Teller's Fool Us, which is a show where you have to try and fool Penn and Teller. And there are multiple videos of people explaining how they think I did the trick. Interestingly, they're all wrong, but they're still explaining how they think I did the trick.
I bet that's fun. Do you often do that? Go through all the reaction videos and look at them? And
so actually, I genuinely don't.
Okay.
I mean, I say I genuinely don't. I did watch. I skipped through some of those ones, but it's only a friend of mine recently because a friend said, "Oh, I watched the video of how your trick's done, and now I know how it's done." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going to check it." And then I watched it properly, and it's not how it's done.
You laughed behind your cape, didn't you?
But here's what's interesting about magic, though: if the audience think they know how it's done, that's as good as them knowing how it's done. So it doesn't matter if you come up with the wrong explanation. If you've come up with an explanation, however crazy, if it seems plausible, then you've come up with a solution, and you are essentially no longer fooled. And perhaps I've not done my job properly. But the job of a magician is not only to fool people. I think it's to entertain people. I think it's to fascinate them. I think it's to bring them into your world. It's to create a world. So it's only a part of it, but it's a very important part of it. So to me, if somebody does think they've worked it out, I've made a mistake because I've got them on the wrong track. I'm making them worry about the wrong things.
Okay. So also with your company, you do magic conventions, yeah? You arrange those. Can you just go into a little bit about those?
Yes, so we organize conferences, two main conferences, one in London, one in Columbus, Ohio, which is the land of the first ever magic convention, which we took over, I think 15 years ago now. No, it must be less than that, like 12 years ago. And we have about 1,000 magicians come to that one.
Whoa, that's big.
1,200. And they just come to learn magic. So me and Josh, we give talks. Other magicians, we bring in great magicians to give talks, and often the up-and-coming famous magicians will perform on our stages, and then they will go on to do Netflix shows, that kind of thing. So it's a great place to learn new magic, but also it's a great place to see up-and-coming talent as well. So those are fun parts of our job. But the one that's become even more fun lately is we've been organizing these retreats. And the retreats are where we take magicians on holiday, basically, with some of the more famous magicians in our industry. So I just got back from Italy. We went to Tuscany, and we took two groups of 40 magicians, and we spend a week together, and we do all of the kind of Tuscan touristy things. And then we also learn magic along the way. We've done those in South Africa and Costa Rica, and we have one coming up in Egypt. And that, to me, is the coolest part of my job right now, getting to travel around the world
That definitely does sound good. You obviously, it goes with the old classic, innit? You work hard, you play hard. Fair play to you.
Exactly.
Right. So, what magic style do you most enjoy working on? I.e., like cards or mentalism.
So card tricks are basically my life. I always have a deck of cards with me. I'm always fiddling with them, coming up with tricks, creating new ideas. But lately, I've really been trying to transition into bigger things. I'm performing a lot more in kind of what we call stand-up magic. So for maybe 200 people, think of it as like our equivalent of stand-up comedy, basically. Mm-hmm. So just me, a microphone, often a deck of cards, but it's kind of mind-reading style. It's fun. It's upbeat. It's the closest thing we have to stand-up comedy.
So that's your current favorite thing. Now, do you write your own material in terms of the comedy scenario parts of it, or do you get other people to write for you?
No, I write only for myself. But here's the cool thing: the community that I surround myself in means that some of my closest friends are also some of the best magicians in the world, some of the funniest, some of the most creative. So we all feed off each other. We all work together and we all help each other out. So every trick I do and every gag I do is influenced by my friends and often just molded a little bit by my friends, because if you just change just one little thing about a trick, it can have a massive change in the impact. Just like when you hear comedy writers talk about, if you just change one word or you move that word from here to there, it changes everything. So I'm always open to hearing from my friends and my audience and from professionals. So do
you ever run it by them then, or do you just perform and then take the feedback, or do you have like sessions where you would sit with 5 or 6 magician friends and then say, right, this is what I'm thinking about doing? What do you think?
All of those things. Yeah, it's magic is really collaborative. One of my friends says a trick shared is a trick improved, and I think he's right. So right from the start, I'm working on a trick. You can normally tell when I'm working on a new trick, because that card table, which is where I create, is a mess, and just as it's a mess right now. And I've been working on this new trick for 2 days now, and the first thing I did once I had the general concept and could kind of muddle my way through it, is I called Josh in this case, and I was like, okay, I have this idea, what do you think of this? And then he helped me tweak it, and then I filmed a video of it so that I could watch it back and understand it, and then I sent it to my friend Luke. Luke is one of the leading mind readers, mentalists in the world, if not the leading, but he's also written for basically every TV show you can imagine. He's produced many of the shows for Dynamo, and he's worked on tricks for Darren Brown. So I'm very lucky I have an expert like Luke around. And so I filmed him a video, and I was like, hey, what do you think of this? And he sent me some notes. And that will continue happening for the next 3 years with that trick, as I'm tweaking each little bit. But it's a I guess, asynchronous feedback loop, because whilst I'm getting feedback from them, I'm also giving them feedback on tricks. So it's very collaborative for the most part. It always has to come from within, I think. But once you get started, then away you go. And if you have friends like I do, you get to collaborate all the time, and you just get such great feedback.
Quality. Now, a thought that's just come to mind here, right? I work on music and stuff.
I do indeed.
And at some point, you're going to get to a point where something I write and record is going to sound similar to something else. Is there a resource with magic and specifically card tricks where you could genuinely create a trick, think it's original because it came from your brain, and then only to find out later someone else has done that in another country? Does that happen? Constantly.
And it's really hard. Magic is being improved upon constantly. Magic is being created constantly. Like you can just see in this shot, just some of the books I've got another This Again, and that's just in books. But I've also, every one of these books maybe contains between 30 and 100 tricks. And that's just from the last 100 years. These books are about 100 years old, the oldest ones. But there's probably a new magic book published every few days right now. And it's just impossible for people to keep up with all of these tricks. So there is often duplication. But for me, I always look at the intent of the creator. And the way I do this is, if there is a story about the creation of this trick, it's probably original or accidental duplication. But if there is no story, so for example, let's say I do this trick where I climb inside a giant red balloon, and that was a dare from a friend of mine who's like, you would look stupid if you did that. You should try that and do it on stage because it'd be funny. Like, that's a story. That's how that trick came about. But since I did that trick on TV, I did it on ITV's Next Great Magician, which was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Since I did that trick first on TV, I've heard from so many magicians who've been like, oh, it's weird, I do that trick too. And I always say, well, how did you come up with it? And they say, well, I just, I just thought it'd be cool to get inside a balloon, and I saw other people do it, and they just don't have the same background story about the trick. So, because every trick is a process, I think if you look for the story, you typically know whether or not it was created with intent to copy or created because it was an inspiration that somebody had along the way.
Right, I'm going to branch out twice now because 2 thoughts came to mind again. So I'm going off my own script, but I kind of need to because the thoughts came up.
I like it when you do this.
First thing is kind of wooey, which is, do you think there's some sort of ethereal plane or whatever where you, Andy, has just had an idea, that idea pops up to this ethereal radio or whatever, and then other people pick it up. So then loads of people at the same time around the globe almost have that same idea. Because there is a scenario where crows or other birds have learnt something, and then there's stories of other birds in completely separate on other parts of the globe that also then know how to do that thing. What do you think about that?
So I am not at all spiritual in pretty much any way. So one of the interesting things about being a magician is you get to learn what's potentially bullshit, like because we see all of the psychics and we learn from people like that. There's Houdini spent his life trying to debunk claims of exactly the kind of thing that you're describing.
That's right.
In Cheltenham, we're both near Cheltenham. There was a magician even before Houdini called John Neville Maskelyne, who right in the Cheltenham Park exposed these 2 mediums who said that they could contact the dead and all these things, spirit mediums. And so in a way, when you become a magician and when you study magic, it just gets punched out of you all the way of there is nothing ethereal, nothing like that. But there are also, let's say, very religious magicians, very spiritual magicians. So, I mean, maybe that's just the path I took. So, no, I don't believe that. But I do believe something similar, I think just in different ways, which is I believe that you need to get input to create output. And often we're all taking the same input. So maybe a magician does a trick on a TV show and we all watch it, all of us magicians. And now that's in our brains. And now for the next year or so, that's back there somewhere. And maybe it will create an inspiration for another trick. Or maybe there's a movie, doesn't even have to be magic, just a scene in a movie that then sparks off an idea. So I think that's what's happening, at least for us. I don't know about the crows, but the crows scare me anyway. And these are real smart creatures. But I think often it's just shared input that is then creating similar output, which is why there are magicians. Makes sense. There are magicians out there who refuse to take any inputs. They literally cut themselves off from the magic world. They don't read any of these books. They don't study any of the masters. But sadly, their output is pretty terrible for the most part. So I believe that we do need good input to create good output.
Fair enough. That's a very logical programming approach, isn't it?
It's that whole thing comes from a programmer's term: garbage in, garbage out. So yeah,
that's right. Exactly.
I agree.
I straddle both worlds. I have a lot of time for the woo. Let's call it the woo, and I have a lot of time for the logic. I struggle between the two, reconciling, but separate thing. Now, the other question that came to mind when we were talking about potential for tricks being the same was, do you think there is a limit to tricks? Or do you think, like art, it's, so
it's open? Interesting. Often people say to me, like, well, how can you keep coming up with new tricks? Because surely there must be an end to it. You're combining existing ideas. But I don't think there is a limit, because I've seen how much magic has improved over the last 5-10 years. There have been some really creative people who have moved magic forward. And I think that will always happen. So no, for me, I think we have a long way to go before we run out of tricks. But the reason I just paused then, because I also thought, but where is magic going? Because we have this problem now with AI, ChatGPT, and all these incredible things that I absolutely love. But are they going to start to change people's perception of magic? Are they going to now assume, hey, that trick I just saw is actually secretly technology? The mind reader, is he secretly being fed information that somebody is secretly getting from ChatGPT? I don't know. Like, is it going to change what we have to do? So my sense is actually we're going to have to backtrack in magic. And actually, even though we are speeding forward so quickly right now in the magic that is being created and the quality of the magic, maybe we're going to have to start to go back a little bit and just regress, so that we can start removing the perception of, is technology involved in the tricks that we do.
Do you know what? I never thought you'd go down the route of AI, but I'm glad you did, because I also think the same about art, music, video,
yeah, what's going to happen
with AI.
So your kind of music, the songs you write, like,
yeah,
I could put into ChatGPT right now, write me a song about rubber ducks and blow up dolls, and it will give it to me, right? It will give me a pretty good song.
Stop giving me ideas, Andy.
Well, I still think that's one of your better songs, is the blow up doll song all those years ago. So yeah, how does that change what you do? I mean, do you now use it as inspiration?
I'm going to say no, because I've always strived completely in myself to be at the core original, honest, and as least collaborative as possible.
Interesting.
So I don't know whether that fits your scenario. I don't know.
You don't get feedback so you're halfway through a track. You don't get feedback on it or anything?
No, because I don't tend to release it anywhere. I pretty much very, very private. I do my own stuff, create a big body of work, and then go boom, there, have that.
Sure.
So I don't tend to get that feedback. But hey ho. Now you mentioned the big red balloon. Was that on Masters of Illusion as well? Did you do that there?
Yeah, I did it on 3 TV shows. Yeah, Masters of Illusion, Fool Us, and Next Great Magician. Yeah.
Okay. On Fool Us, I that might have also been the clip that I saw.
Yeah, so I did this trick with the balloon. The original idea for it was, back then I was very awkward on stage. I didn't know how to move. I didn't really know how to communicate on stage. It was early days, like I was saying about that new learning curve I had to do.
Yeah.
And it's especially harder when you're on stage, because that is a whole different skill set than the skill set I learned doing close-up magic. So that is... it was great. That trick took advantage of the fact that I was this awkward, weird-looking guy, nerdy-looking guy, now climbing inside a balloon. It's very funny. But I didn't really intend it to be some kind of TV show piece, some big production piece. But then my friend Andrew O'Connor, who owns a production company, co-owns this production company with Darren Brown, that he said he was working on this show called Next Great Magician. Would I be willing to do this trick on that show? And I said, basically, yes, if you help me, because Andrew is a TV god. He's a genius.
TV presenter, yeah?
He used to be a TV presenter, yeah.
I met him years ago, yeah.
Really?
When I was doing amateur dramatics, yeah.
Well, there we go. He's great. And he is also an amateur magician, but created this production company, did extremely well, produced some extremely great TV shows. And with his help, we came up with this kind of bigger routine for it, and now became a TV piece. But when TV bookers are booking magic tricks, what they don't want is card tricks. They want something different that's never been seen before. They want something big, something colorful.
And colorful, yeah, definitely.
So the balloon trick, they were the TV companies kind of wanted to get me on to do that trick. So I would always use it as my foot in the door. Yeah. So that was how I got on Masters of Illusion, for example. And then I got to do that trick, and I said, but let me do some other tricks on that too. I want to show other parts of what I do. And then every year since, I've been invited back to do other magic. But the balloon was always the foot in the door. I don't really do it anymore. It would take a lot to convince me. It would have to be a really big, kind of interesting show that I really wanted to do. It takes a lot out of you. It's not really my style anymore. I'm not really that kind of awkward guy on stage. And I think you can see that on Fool Us, for example. I think that was part of the transition as I was getting better on stage. it's not as funny anymore because it's now just a guy who can speak on stage and getting inside a balloon. So the humor is lost that used to be naturally ingrained in that trick.
I certainly enjoyed it, and for anyone watching this, I'll put a link in the description. Go ahead and look at Andy's big red balloon.
Oh, thank you.
It's very funny. What other TV shows have you done besides the 3 you've already mentioned? Is there like a long list?
There's not a long list by any means. Like I'm not a TV magician. Like, so what's interesting is I always say, and I truly mean this, that I do TV shows because I love the process. I love being on set and I love working on tricks for those shows. So I've done a bunch of kind of smaller, very, very smaller shows. I've done, as a kid, I did The Big Breakfast, which was fun. And I did, all of these kind of news shows. But I'm not a TV magician. It happens to be the easiest way to tell people what I do because they are Googleable. Like I can't really talk about, hey, remember that trick I did at that corporate event where there were 200 people there? Like So the TV stuff is more easily found.
Okay, cool. A slight segue. Who in the magic world have you not met yet, but really want to? Is there anyone?
Wow. Is there anyone? That's a great question. There may not be, now I think about it. I'm so lucky. I often think if I could tell 14-year-old me, hey, you're going to have this person's name on your phone and you're going to be able to text them, or you might get a text from them today, I would pinch myself. I'd be going, that's not true. That's never going to happen. But because of my job, because I think of my love for magic as well, I've managed to interact with many, many of the greatest magicians in the world. And I get to do so often on a daily basis. So yeah, I don't think there is anyone right now.
Okay. So let's expand this then. Let's go a bit ethereal again, or woo. If we could go back in time for anyone who's now passed away, any one of those?
Yeah, there are some great magicians from back in time that fall into, remember those 2 categories I told you about, the famous ones and the ones who are famous just for magicians? There are some famous ones just for magicians who I would have loved to have met. I would have absolutely loved to have met this guy called Hofzinser, who was performing magic in Austria. And he's basically the father of the kind of magic I do, the true creator of close-up magic. He used to perform in a little salon theater, a little kind of parlor in Vienna, and maybe 50 people would be in the audience, and he would be performing card tricks and creating all of these ingenious card techniques, and they are still in use today. And there are many other people like him who influence magic so much. I guess I would like to have met Houdini, because my sense is Houdini was proper crazy. And I think it will be a story to be spending time with Houdini. I think he was, I assume from what I've read about him, extremely arrogant, extremely abrasive. And I think that would just be fun. I think I would like to meet him for the story.
Now, can you speak Austrian and Hungarian?
No. And you know what? I don't... Hofzinser didn't speak English, so that's a problem. Luckily, Houdini did, so I guess I'd have to settle with Houdini, or I could just talk with them with ChatGPT, because I think I'd be allowed to use that too, or Google Translate or something.
We'll allow that one. We'll let that through. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to say, so stage, screen, or personal close-up magic. What is your preference?
Right now, it's stage. I am just absolutely loving... Like my favorite size is, let's say, 100 people, 120 people, where I'm really putting a lot of improvisation in my work right now. Magic is a game to me. I think I've got to the point where I found the tricks that I'm really comfortable performing. And some of those are quite new tricks, but when you've been doing magic for as long as I have, I'm an old man now, I'm 40, I've been doing it for, I guess, almost 30 years. You start to learn techniques that just become ingrained, and your hands just do them without you thinking about it. So now I found these tricks that just allow me to perform outwards instead of holding the deck of cards. You'll often see a magician like holding the deck here and working really kind of close and thinking about what they're doing. But I think I've developed a repertoire now that just allows me to kind of be more expressive and to be in the moment and to be thinking about maybe 2 steps ahead at times. What can I say that's going to be funny over here, and what can I do with this guy to make the interaction more unique and more about this audience? So I find I can really do that on stage now, and it's been a 20-year battle to get to that stage, but I finally feel like I'm starting to unlock it, and I'm just having great fun doing that right now.
Again, it's the old adage, isn't it? Practice, practice, practice makes perfection.
Exactly.
I'm going to expand one more thing on that line of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 parts to your performance, which is obviously the technical skills of the magic, and there's also the art of the gab or the comedy part. Which do you think have you improved most on? Or is that almost impossible to say?
I think it's probably impossible to say. I think what is interesting is they haven't improved at the same speed. And some of them have jumped forward and one's been held back. But the technical side, actually, at times I wonder whether I have regressed a little bit, because as a kid, I used to spend hours and hours with a deck of cards in my hand. I used to say that I'd spend about 6 hours. I don't know how true that is. Probably at least 4 or 5 hours as a kid, at school and breaks. And also when I had an office job as well, I would spend a lot of time just, if I'm thinking about something or whatever, I would have cards in my hand and I'd be practicing. But I don't have that luxury anymore. So while my skills, my sleight of hand may have gone down a little bit, I hope not, but they may have. I think my performance abilities kind of allow that not to be a problem, basically. I now have better timing. So I now know when to execute a sleight. I think you can only get that feeling from performing many, many times. You can just find the right moment for a sleight. And so actually, if it's a little bit poorly executed, I really hope it's not poorly executed, but you can get away with just 1 in 100 times you can get away with just a little flash or something like that. So I do work hard to be as good as I can be, but as you get older, I think it starts to slip, and you have to just work harder and harder to make sure it doesn't.
Cool, thank you. Right, we're going to move away from magic temporarily, if you don't mind, and I'm going to go into a section I like to call strange things, because something about this area of life really intrigues me. So what's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to you? Now, it doesn't have to be magic related. It doesn't have to be ghosts or anything like that. But what's the weirdest thing ever to happen to you?
Wow. I have a couple of weird false memories that have turned out to be false that I truly believed, but up until recently found out they didn't happen. For example, I have a distinct memory of watching Tommy Cooper die on stage, but he died before I was born, so that didn't happen.
That's cool.
Like watching a TV show. Like I know where I was, I can see the show, but obviously it must have been a rerun, one of those wacky things that happened. This man died on stage. I don't know, a documentary or something. But in a similar vein, I also remember being, I would say, about 3 years old, sitting. No, it must have been older than that. It must have been 5 or 6, sitting with my granddad and him showing me magic. But the weird thing is, my granddad died when I was like 2, and he didn't do magic. So, but for some reason that is there. So,
now I believe that because I'm well into spirits and stuff, and I know from the lore, kids from birth up until around 6 tend to be. That's where they say the stories of seeing, past people, etc., etc.
Interesting.
So that's a very interesting thing, and to me, you saying it means you definitely know it happened in your head. Yeah, so I think it probably did happen. But
interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it is an interesting one.
Freak me out now.
I know. UFOs, aliens, thoughts?
I saw this great, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson thing where he said, if you take an empty glass, put it in the sea and hold it up and say, are there any fish in here? The answer is no. But that's how much that glass is the equivalent of how much of space we've explored. So there's definitely something out there. I don't know when we're going to see it, if we're going to see it in our lifetime, but there's definitely something. But we need to explore more than just that one glass of the ocean. We need to explore as much as we can. So there's got to be something out there.
So thanks for your answers on the strange things. We are now entering the Koit Zone. Koit Zone!
Oh no! And what? And we've already dealt with the strange stuff.
Yes, exactly. The strange with me never ends.
Yes.
Okay, so Marmite, yes or no?
No.
No. Whoa.
Well, why would you have Marmite in a world where Nutella exists?
Do you know what? I don't genuinely know if I've ever tasted Nutella.
Well, it's bad for you anyway. It's full of palm oil, so maybe don't.
Oh yeah, we don't want that. We like our orangutans.
Yeah. Exactly.
Favorite sweets?
Chocolate. Is that allowed?
Type? Yeah, that's allowed.
Just
technically, I think they're separate, but we'll still go with it.
My parents used to own sweet shops, so I can tell you hundreds of sweets, but I think I'm going to go with just like bulk standard Cadbury's chocolate.
Dairy milk, yeah. Oh, Whisper. That's cheeky. Grab something from within easy reach of you and tell us the story of it.
How about this?
What is this?
This is, I can't hold it up too much because it will fall down. This is called the Puzzle a Day. And this is a puzzle that I do every day. And the idea is you have to reorder it, all of the pieces, like kind of Tetris style pieces, to match the current day's date. And it's really hard, at least for me. I have friends who can do it like in 20 seconds. It takes me about 10 minutes to do, but I like it because it keeps my brain working. And we promoted it on Vanishing Ink as my favorite puzzle, but by that point I'd only really been doing it for a few days, and it probably was my favorite puzzle at the time, and I kind of do it regularly now, every day, almost out of embarrassment at the fact that we promoted it so early before I'd actually was experienced with it. So now I make sure I am, and I do this puzzle every day, and it's bloody hard for me.
It's a brain training thing rather than a fun now, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Best junk food, if you eat it or not, I don't know.
Oh, I eat it. Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Never had that either.
The American Taco Bell, not there's one in Gloucester. You can go and visit.
That's right. There is indeed.
St. Oswald's Taco Bell. But I prefer the American one because it's really trashy.
Cool. Favorite place you've ever been and why?
Probably Las Vegas, because it's just full of my people. It's full of magicians there, and it's a great magic community there.
Do you know what? I'm also going to say Las Vegas if I was asked that question, because you're like, it's eye candy, isn't it? Everything is amazing. Yeah.
What's your favorite hotel?
Well, I stayed when I went in the Luxor, because that's what everyone does when they're from England. You get really marketed with that one. But I really liked the look of both the Bellagio and the Venetian when I was there. Yes. But that was donkeys years ago, so
they're still there.
Which one's your favourite?
Probably Bellagio. Yeah, I think so.
Because of the fountains?
Just cool hotel. Cool rooms. Cool, yeah. Great location on the strip as well.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Roller coasters or zip wires?
Zip wires. I'm about to do the world's longest zip wire in Alaska.
In Wales? North Wales?
Alaska. But then again, it's like the world's oldest pub, or England's oldest pub. I think there's probably 100 of them, so who knows?
Yeah. Where's the one in Alaska then? Is that Juneau or something?
No, it's not. It's something straight. I can't remember. I can find out.
I'm going to look that up, because me and Tiff always do zip wires, and I'm always interested in other ones. Have you done the ones in Wales?
I haven't.
Yeah, defo give that a go if you can.
I saw them on The Apprentice once, and I thought I should go there one day.
Yeah, defo do it, mate. It's amazing. What's the most money you've ever found at one time?
Not found, but cool, similar kind of story is, I don't know whether this is a good story to tell or not. My ex-boss was extremely rich, is extremely rich, and we were in a casino once, and he was like, here's 10 grand, put it on red now. And that was kind of a weird moment, because I didn't want it. I wanted to go, well, there's 50% chance you're going to lose this, just give it to me instead. Because I was about to get a mortgage at the time. But in my head, I was like, well, if I don't put this down and it goes on reds, if he would have won. So I just had to be like, oh, quick now. So I didn't find it, and I don't think he won. No, he didn't win. Didn't mean anything to him, but to me, that 10 grand was a lot of money to go losing.
I imagine you'd have gone, no!
Yeah, pretty much.
have you ever worn tights or pantyhose for our American cousins?
I have not. What's it like? Tell me about
it. I was going to ask you if you had, see what it was like, but you obviously haven't.
I don't think I have. If I have, it would be for a trick, but I don't. I don't recall.
I think that signals the end of the Koit Zone experience.
That was the one you wanted to leave till the end? Okay.
Yes. I have worse questions, but I wanted to give you kind ones.
Oh, you're very kind.
Right, upcoming projects in your future. What are you currently working on?
I am working on just about to go to Alaska in a couple of months, like I said, for another one of our retreats, which is going to be really cool. I am working on a load of new magic for a show. The aim is to have a new 1.5-hour show to debut at the midpoint of next year, so maybe 8 months from now. I am working on a filming project. That means I need to be in LA for most of the end of this year, which is going to be really cool. It's one of those can't say anymore kind of situations.
Sure.
But yeah, I have a very cool year coming up. I'm very excited.
Has anything been recorded recently that's going to get released soon? Like a speaking appearance or anything?
Yeah, I just got back from filming another season of Masters of Illusion where I filmed, I think, 5 pieces. For that, 5 new pieces, which was really fun. And yeah, for this other project we've been filming for the last year, the one I will be in LA for. And the fun part with that is I worked on a new 25-minute show to perform at the Magic Castle. And the Magic Castle is this place in LA that is like the most exclusive magic venue in the world. To get in, you have to know somebody who knows somebody, and you have to wear a suit and a tie and shoes. And if you don't, you're not allowed in. And it's a celebrity hangout, and I filmed this 25-minute show that is part of this project I'm talking about, which was really fun to create a whole new 25 minutes in a couple of months and work it in. So I enjoyed that.
Cool. Well, when that's out, mate, nudge me. I'd be interested to see that. So
little nudge.
Amazing. Here's a kind of a cool one. Do you have any long-term ideas in the back of your head that the time just isn't right for yet, but you know you will get there at some stage?
Yes and no. I have a lot of long-term ideas that I just don't think I'm ready for yet. I feel like often my abilities need to catch up with my brain. So I can picture the coolest tricks that I want to do, or I can picture myself standing on stage with a particular thing around me, and I just can't yet picture how I'm going to achieve it. So yeah, I guess my imagination is better than my abilities to do some of this stuff. So yeah, lots of ideas for new tricks that I just don't yet know how I'm going to pull off.
Yeah, I'm the same, because I got a few ideas that I know I haven't got the skills to animate yet and stuff. So yeah, I completely understand that one. I just wanted to see if other people felt the same. Now let's leave with this final question, which is, do you think you'll stay in your current position as a magician, or do you think at some stage you might evolve into something else? And I don't mean that into like a chrysalis, become out a butterfly, but do you know what I mean? Where you might morph into a different job, like presenting or something.
I leave all avenues open. I do expect that I may transition to do more kind of speaking things at conferences, which is a goal of mine. I think it's something I'd be quite good at. I give a lot of talks at magicians conferences, and I think I've learned the skill sets that would allow me to go to IT conferences and that kind of thing, and have a really cool story to tell. That's kind of ingrained with magic and detective work and spy work and kind of cool stuff where everything joins together. Now the interesting stuff's coming out, or about at the end of the podcast. But I have this cool talk that I've been doing at magic conferences that I think I will be transitioning to real world, bigger, outside of magic conferences in the near future. So I'm looking forward to that. And who knows what the future will bring with that.
Cool. Thanks ever so much, mate. I really appreciate you coming on. The final thing is obviously, is there anything you want to plug? Any websites, any projects, anything?
If you're ever at Disneyland, California, come on by Main Street and check out Main Street Magic. And if you're ever in San Francisco, Pier 39 is where our store is, and you get to see all of the magic we've created that's specifically for people who have never done magic before. So that's what I want to plug. Check it out.
Fair play. I've just thought of one more question, so sorry to drag it on a little longer, but how often are you personally in those stores?
About once a year, which is a shame because I wish it was more, but my kind of travel and work schedule doesn't allow it. I'm often right next to Anaheim, where Disneyland is, and have no time to get to the store. But over the next year or so, actually, we're going to be doing a lot more kind of press days and appearances where me and Josh will be at the store teaching magic and performing magic. So hopefully in the next year or two, a lot more.
Excellent. Andy, thanks ever so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks, Koit. See you soon.
No worries. Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
To watch other episodes of KoitCast, or indeed animations I've made, click the image top middle. Click the image top left to download some of my songs, and click the image top right to subscribe to my channel. And make sure you tick that notification bell so you never miss an upload.